Good night, everyone. I have the great pleasure and honour to be here with my friend Ben. And before we came on, we couldn't remember. We've known each other so long now that we couldn't remember how the two of us came together. But I'm sure it must have been over some networking event or some really interesting conversation about the environment or coffee or business or something great like that, because Ben has been involved in all of that stuff and he has lots of great stuff to say. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Ben, my friend, to introduce himself. Who is Ben the man?
Well, thanks, Martin, first off, for having me on here this evening to talk to all of your wonderful people that are following WorkShore. And it's, might I say, just such a great concept. I'm really behind you on it. I think it's amazing. So who am I? Well, as you said, my name's Ben. I've got a 2-year-old called Rowan. I've got a wonderful wife called Anya. I live in Belfast, but I grew up in Ballycastle. I've traveled all over the world. I love surfing. I love live music. I'm really passionate about food and the environment. And I love it when a good business plan comes together and something exciting comes of it. So I have a bit of an entrepreneurial edge to me and a bit of creative spark. And that probably sums me up fairly well.
Also, I've learned something new. I didn't realise that you were a Ballycastle man. Would you
Yeah.
consider yourself a countryman then, or is Ballycastle still a town?
I would consider myself a bit of a countryman. Like, I grew up in the North Coast and it's such a beautiful place. It's got a huge part of my heart and I'm up there all the time. My parents still live up there. I've been living in Belfast for probably 15 years or so now at this stage, but yeah, very much so. I'm happiest, I suppose, when I'm on a beach or up a hill or around a river or in a forest or something like that. So it's great to get that hit so close to the city. I think we're so incredibly lucky that we have that right there on our doorstep. It's amazing.
You don't realise how lucky we are here until you go somewhere like England or somewhere else where either they don't have the greenery and the freshness and the very special air and light that we have here, or they just everything seems rushed and incredibly busy and crowded and polluted, and then you get to come back home and realise, we have places like the North Coast or the Strangford Lough or the Mourne Mountains. And on that note, I've seen a little bit of you. I've been lucky enough to have a little bit of a peep at your presentation. So tell us a little bit who you are professionally. You've got a relatively new project off the ground and you're firing on all cylinders about it. So what are you up to now?
Yeah, so background before I kind of fire into the presentation, I suppose. Grew up kind of working professionally in the charity sector, particularly big focus on the outdoors. That was my love of the outdoors and taking young people sailing and really kind of a personal development platform. That kind of grew into thinking, how could I generate revenue in another way, but still have a positive social impact? And that kind of led me to think about social enterprise. But social enterprise then led me to think about sustainable business. And that led me to thinking about things like triple bottom lines and what even is that? And is that even possible? And how might you do such a thing? And then I met organic farmers and Root and Branch started, and I went down a rabbit hole with coffee and ended up coming out the other side with coffee and food and friends and a kind of wonderful journey and doing collaborations with Bushmills whiskey and ended up doing stuff all over the world with that, which was an incredible journey. I exited in 2019 to spend more time with my son and to think about what I might do next. And Big Blue Mountains is the next thing that I'm focused on. So let me just share my screen and I'll give you a little bit of an overview of what that's all about. So hopefully
this is the Mournes.
You can see the Mourne Mountains right now, which is apt as we move towards Big Blue Mountains, which is the name of my business. So it's a very small little boutique consultancy, really built around creating sustainable business in Northern Ireland. That's the area that I really want to have an impact in. I founded Root and Branch in 2011 with the idea of having a triple bottom line. And I learned a few things about how that works in practice along the way. Made plenty of mistakes, made some successful decisions too along the way. And I think that mix of things has kind of come together to give me an idea around what might work with that. So I've tried to go down the rabbit hole on sustainable business since leaving, and the culmination of that really is Big Blue Mountains. So what's it all about?
Can I just say before you go on that Root and Branch was one of my favourite little places to pop into when I was down in North Gallery. It really was a fantastic place to get a Portuguese tart and a nice hot coffee and have conversation. And I miss that. I certainly missed it over lockdown, but it was a great spot.
That's the thing that I miss the most is the people. I made so many wonderful connections making coffee there. It was such an incredible time. And I'm so delighted actually that Rachel Snowden's taken that space on now. She was our manager at the time when we were just getting going in the Ormo Baths. And so she's now set up Napoleon Coffee, which is in there. Which is serving incredible coffee, and she's made the seating even better, and so she's just kind of taken it in leaps and bounds down there, and so it's in very safe hands down there. So you can still get all those Portuguese tarts and delicious coffees in that space as you go forward, Martin. Fear not, fear not.
I'll have to pop in. That's great.
So I suppose distilling down, what is this all about? Well, I believe in a kind of quite simple idea, which is that better business is for a better world. And I believe in having a better world. My question to the people that are watching this is your business fit for the future? And maybe it is. But if it maybe isn't, I'd love to have a chat with you and see how we can maybe position it to be a bit more fit for the future. So that's really, the kind of impetus for this. What can we use business for? And my role really is to support entrepreneurs, leaders, organizations who want to do better business, achieve net zero, and create inspiring places to work. So what that means is, how do we balance purpose with profit, with how we work with our people, with how we honor the planet that we live on? And really, this is a huge journey that we're going on as a society, between now and 2030. And obviously, we've just come through COP26, and it's kind of really kind of hit the mainstream in a big way.
Just realised, Ben, reading that statement there, that's also what we're trying to do at WorkShore.
It is.
A big element of it. So there you go. Great minds think alike. Only you came up with the statements.
Your mind is much greater than mine. You went into accountancy, so you got this well figured out, Martin. But WorkShore, totally. I think this is about finding ways that we bring people together and we create new ways of being productive together. And I think that's exactly the train that you're on. And it's going to need creativity, and it's going to need innovation, and the kinds of connections that you're fostering with WorkShore is exactly what's going to produce that. So that's what my aim is, who I want to work with. Here's some of the ways that I'm offering to do that. Firstly, design thinking workshops. I know that's probably kind of a little bit of a buzz word at the moment, but really what that's all about is getting people together and working out what are the solutions that are really going to tackle the issues that are at the heart of the problem that you may have within your business that you want to solve, and what are the ideas that we can come up with together that cost the least and have the most impact, and then how can we iterate on those to make those better. So my role really is to facilitate that process and help really drive really positive, exciting solutions within a business setting.
That would be a lovely excuse for a co-working day. I would
exactly.
Love that.
Let's get together. Let's get the flip charts out. Let's get the post-it notes. Or not.
Really worthwhile. Really worthwhile. And good fun, I would imagine.
Yeah, totally. Loads of energy and just really practical. I think anybody that's been to a well-run workshop that's come out of that, and gone, actually, here's some really practical solutions that we can action right now that's going to make a difference. And I think, coming out of COVID, nobody's got time to be faffing around. If you're going to invest some money or you're going to invest some time, you need to get bang for your buck. and you need to see those results as quick as you can. And I know that some things are going to take, a longer term approach, but there's some things that we can do very quickly that can make a big difference. So that's what those workshops are all about working out. Circular business models. This is where we can close loops. This is where we can map out, how are you going to create value socially, environmentally, and economically. Okay, it's not about just making money. It is also about balancing that with how are we going to have a lighter impact on the planet, and how are we really going to inspire the people that we work with and the people that we serve with the product that we're creating. So that all fits together in a business model. And so sometimes, it just takes stepping back out to map that out and figure out exactly how do we create value, and what are all the kind of key components of that we can work on to make it better. That's what that's all about.
One of the things in business is, and particularly in small business, and people don't realize you aren't in business because it's only a small minority of us actually go out into the world and start businesses. Business isn't all about making money. And I think you and me are both examples of that, where we reach out to others and try and do more with our businesses. And I know for definite you have with your previous businesses. It's simply about making money. It's about other stuff as well. It's about community. It's about trying to make the world a better place. It's about trying to reach out to others and be helpful and get help from them. So yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that circular business model. It's not just profit. Business is so much more.
It's so much more. And I think just taking a moment to really think about that and come back to what are the ways in which we actually do things other than make money. And there is so much value within that. And, policies are changing in quite a big way at the moment. So, pre this little video, we were talking about this, and procurement policies are changing from April onwards. If you're not able to demonstrate social value in your tender, you're not going to get the contract. So that means things like, are you paying the living wage? Have you got a net zero plan? Lots of different things that really make up that whole social value model. But just understanding what those things are and what they mean for your business are so powerful for both your internal stakeholders, your external stakeholders, and your clients up and down your value chain. So super important to get that right. That's where the business strategy comes in as well. Once you've figured out what it is that you do and why it's so valuable, the next thing is to work out how do we best position that within the current marketplace, which is evolving so much at the moment. I think our economy is going to go through a huge transformation over the next 10 years. The question is, are you going to be at the forefront of that change, or are you going to be somewhere in the middle of the pack, or are you going to be, perhaps on the relegated heap at the end? So this is really about figuring out, what's the business case for sustainability? How can it work for your business rather than the other way around? And I think, we did just talk about it's not all about the money, but the money is really important too. We have to make sure that works and the business actually survives. We can be as altruistic as we want in the world, but unless we actually have something that's going to drive revenue as well, then it's not going to be around. So working out how we track that trajectory is super important. And how we manage that. What's the management system? How are we going to operationalize this? How are we going to understand, where it's working and where it's not? What are the decisions that we've made that have worked? And what are the things we need to change and change quickly? So an integrated reporting system is designed to do just that. So it's going to, track along what are the social value points, what are the environmental value points, and what are the economic value points, and how do they balance and work together to really drive the business forward? And how can you look at that on a dashboard as a management team to really make the decisions that are going to drive the business forward? So that's kind of a comprehensive overview of some of the services that I'm offering through Big Blue Mountains.
Fascinating overview. Thank you very much, Ben. It's actually making me think now. You've put a lot of thoughts into my mind about how we can utilize or implement some of those ideas in development of what we're going to be doing at WorkShore, because we're right at the start. We've got a blank canvas. We can sit down and write these plans now appropriately and properly and set off in the right direction, rather than having to reconstitute them from old policies and conventions and plans and everything else.
That's it. You get the opportunity to bake it in from the start, Martin, which is much easier. There is that old saying that, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So we've got to get the culture bit right. And, it's so important. So I'm fully cognitive of that. And it is much easier to design this in from the very beginning than to make changes down the road. But that said, change is, the really exciting leading edge of business. And if you don't change, you're going to drift, and you're not really going to be competitive as we move forward as an economy. So it's a real opportunity. And you were asking me before, actually, around, like, are there examples of businesses that are doing this and are doing
Yeah,
well?
I was going to ask you about that. We touched on B Corps, and I was wondering, can you tell me a little bit more about that and what that means, and what is a B Corp?
So B Corp stands for, a better corporation, and really, there's a lot of household names that have become B Corps, and what that means in kind of practical terms is it's a company that has decided to put stakeholders and their needs above shareholders. And so they put that actually into their constitution so that they're kind of legally bound, and that's one of their reasons to be. So it goes into the memorandum of association in the legal documents of the company. And then they start to work out how can we actually operationalize that. And there's a thing called a B impact assessment that every B Corp has to do. And there's 200 points up for grabs in that assessment process. You must score 80 or above in order to be certified as a B Corp. And you're audited to ensure that you are so. Now, some of the fastest growing, most profitable companies in the world are B Corps. I'll throw out some family names: Patagonia, Innocent Smoothies, Danone, Puka Teas, Finisterre, Ella's Healthy Kitchen, Brewdog. These are, big household names. It's quite telling that, the fastest growing portfolio in Unilever are B Corps, and they are the most profitable area of B Corps of Unilever's portfolio as well. I was just at a fascinating event in Dublin last week, which was all around B Corps, and there are a few down there. There are none in Northern Ireland as yet. But
I'll try and get there. For you, Ben.
Come on, Martin, you can be the first one. Although I think Delhi Lights might be beating you towards that. I believe they're going through the process at the moment. But one of the companies down there, well, two companies spoke. Innocent Smoothies spoke, and another really wonderful small business called Earth's Edge, which are a tourism company, spoke down in Dublin. And their turnover since they became a B Corp has doubled. It has doubled. I'll repeat that. It has doubled. And the reason for that, and they talk about this, very candidly, is because they started to focus on what is it that makes their business tick, and how can they do it better? How can they create value across these three different planes, and how can they be explicit about that? And it forced them to really kind of look at that and look at that well. That drove really wonderful productivity within the business. And it also drove the investment of the employees in the business forwards. So employees, believed in what they were doing, and they worked harder and they worked better and they worked more creatively, and they were better utilized as a result. Also, their customers bought into the process in a big way too. And they accessed new customer groups that they didn't have before because they were suddenly talking about these issues. So I think there's a huge opportunity for businesses to really, grasp this opportunity and drive it forward to a whole new marketplace. And I think, Northern Ireland's not a big place. If you were listening to Sunday Sequence yesterday, you'll have heard Tina McKenzie talk about the opportunity there is for Northern Ireland to really become a world leader in terms of being, a sustainable business hub, somewhere that, has really transformed its economy and embraced the, this transition. and is then showing other countries this is actually how you can make it work. We have just the right number of people, and the highest, and such a great, educated workforce to kind of drive this forward. And I think, Gen Z coming through are really up for this challenge. They're so driven by this, and that's, super exciting. That's the talent of the future. Those are tomorrow's CEOs, and so the future's bright there. I think what we need is the vision in our current leadership to really embrace this, and kind of get behind this agenda. So I think it's all to play for, Martin.
And the thing is, if anybody isn't sure who has been inspired, like I have been listening to you talking this evening, and they're not sure how to do this, then now I have someone that they can go to for help. I'm Mr. Ben Craig. Ben, how do people find you if they've been inspired by your conversation, what you've had to say, our conversation, and they want to start down this route, or even just test the water a little bit? How do they reach out to you?
Yeah, well, I mean, firstly, check out the website, bigbluemountains.com. Drop me an email, ben@bigbluemountains.com. Drop me a little direct message or follow me on LinkedIn, Ben Craig BBM on LinkedIn, and you'll get me there. And yeah, I'd love to have a chat. Consultations are free. So, love to have a good old yarn. And I'll also be at some of your WorkShore events, no doubt. That'd be a good place to find people too.
Absolutely. That'd be great. And we were going to have that co-working morning where we do one of those workshops. I cannot wait until that happens and hear more about the story. Ben, I just want to say thank you very much. We've been talking for way over an hour this evening. I'm sure you weren't expecting, but you're a great guy to have a conversation with. The passion shines through to the knowledge, the education. I know you went back to university and stuff recently, and was it a master's you completed?
Yeah, well, I'm actually just still finishing off a master's. Yeah, but it's wonderful to go back to university. It's just great. Like, it's such a luxury to get to learn, and to kind of immerse yourself in that. So I'm really enjoying that process, and yeah, it enhances all of these things.
Yeah, and it's all wrapped up in what you're doing now. So it's great to see somebody who's doing stuff, and you see people with passion. It makes it so much more attractive, and you really want to reach out and talk to those people. And that's why I wanted to have the wee conversation with you and share what you're doing this evening. I think at that point we will finish up for this evening. I will let you go about your evening. And I suppose your wee one's away to bed by this stage.
He is. Bless his wee cotton socks. He's snoozing away up the stairs there. So hopefully he doesn't wake up tonight.
Yeah. Those years are long behind my son's so fortunately I don't have to worry whether waking club or not. He can stay awake all night if he wants, not no skin of my nose, but I vaguely remember, in the blur of history, I remember what it was like. So you've got your quiet time now. You can go and enjoy a quiet evening, and thank you very much. And on that note, I will say cheerio.
Thank you, Martin. Thanks for everybody for tuning in and checking it out. Hopefully we'll have a yarn at some point. Cheers.